All right, thanks everybody for joining today. I know a few of you are still getting logged in to the video share, so I'll get started and tell you a little bit about our agenda today and then a little bit about Flywheel while you're getting your screen share loaded up. It's not imperative that you do the screen share if some of you are on the road and you just want to listen in, that's fine. I will be showing some content and some video about Flywheel that may be interesting for you. So certainly do join if you can. There is chat here in Zoom. If you're first time using Zoom, you just click on the sidebar. There's a chat button, and you can chat with me or send a message out to the group. So if you have a question during the presentation, feel free to put it there. I am going to keep everyone muted just because some of you are traveling. At the end, I'm going to open up the bridge so that you can all ask questions. This webinar is going to be, should be just about 30 minutes, and then I'll get you on your way. If we have questions, it'll be a little longer, and you're welcome to stay, and I'll answer questions as long as you like. All right, our agenda today. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Flywheel. I'm going to talk about a little background in the industry. We're going to talk about the 8 wastes of lean sales, and then we're going to talk about a case study of a manufacturer located here in Sioux Falls that eliminated 6 figures a year in cost in their sales team. We're going to talk about how they did it, and then we're also going to at the end just wrap up with how you can begin if you haven't looked at optimizing your sales and marketing strategy. We're going to talk about a practical way you can begin that process. So let's get started. A little bit about Flywheel. We're based in Sioux Falls at the Zeal Center, so we are based in the Midwest, and we're owned here. I've been doing this since 2008, so I've been doing this for a long time, working specifically in sales and marketing software. We decided to focus 100% of our effort on manufacturing so that we could really provide high-quality services that were tailored to the needs of manufacturers. We found in our experience selling sales and marketing software that a lot of it is bloatware and expensive and not very customized for the needs of manufacturers. So that's a little bit about us. We're not going to talk about the Flywheel product today. We're going to talk more about methodology and strategy. And then if you're interested in looking at our product, we can talk later. So I'm going to start off with just talking about a little bit of background on how we got to where we are today. This is a picture of a internal document that Toyota published in 2001. So this is quite a while ago now, where they really decided they want to transform their delivery and improve their competitiveness. And what happened is it really worked. They made a massive impact in the global automotive market. Many of you are probably familiar with their story. Many books have been written about their process. Many United States companies went over there to learn what their process was. There are really 2 pillars. There's respect for people, which is more of a culture value that they implemented. But the second thing which really changed the process side of manufacturing was continuous improvement. And the one that I want to zero in on today is the Kaizen, which is really the way that you implement those improvements is something that Toyota really revolutionized. And it was copied by manufacturers all over the world and in the United States especially. Some of the results of implementing the Toyota way have been studied quite extensively by academics. The results are a little different study to study, but it's pretty significant. The level of productivity increases were significant. One of the things that the Toyota way really did is cut on waste. They focused really heavily on optimizing their process, so less time and material was wasted. And so as a result, their facilities got a lot more efficient in terms of use of space, use of material, and they also had less inventory, so they were able to clear out inventory faster. That's more capital efficient. So as you can see, the whole focus on optimizing the process on lean has really been a exercise that has been focused on the manufacturing side of the business and really not on sales and marketing. So the question is, what about sales and marketing? Should we take those same concepts and apply them to sales and marketing? And our belief on that is certainly yes. Here's a PwC study that looked at how much process improvement and automation in sales and marketing impacted bottom line performance and growth. And you can see here that versus the control group, those who implemented automation and process optimization in manufacturing, in sales and marketing grew significantly faster than their peers. I also looked at Martech Advisors. They're one of the leaders in marketing technology, and what they noted is that a number of industries have embraced automation in sales and marketing, but B2B manufacturing hasn't yet. And I'll talk about a couple of reasons why, but they really see that this is going to happen. And this is part of the reason we wanted to be a part of manufacturing, is we want to be a part of helping manufacturers to adopt um, this new technology without them spending speculatively on tools and processes. We wanted to develop a methodology that was reusable and effective for manufacturers. So the interesting thing is less than 20% of manufacturers have optimized sales and marketing. Most manufacturers have optimized production, but most manufacturers have not. It's actually about 18% based on our research and our own experience. And so there's a significant opportunity for you to beat your peers in growth if you optimize sales and marketing. So what are the roadblocks that have prevented manufacturers from doing this? Well, the first thing is that sales and marketing people are natively, generally, this is not a, this is not every salesperson or every marketing person, but most manufacturers have salespeople that are more relational. And that's good because you want them to be in front of customers. As a result, processes are usually loose and often very personal. So each salesperson or marketing person has their own process for cultivating customer relationships. And it's very inconsistent. So as a result, it's hard to train new people. It's hard to optimize the process. The second reason, which is more of a vendor reason, is that sales and marketing technology has grown a lot, and a lot of sales and marketing is now technology driven. I talk to a lot of salespeople who they spend more time texting their customers than they do visiting them now. So a lot of it's tech driven, but a lot of times these tools don't connect. They're all sort of isolated. Phone calls go to the salesperson's phone, and they're not in the main system. There's a lot of things like that that are just kind of one-off stuff. And the vendors themselves haven't adopted this lean Six Sigma thinking that Toyota revolutionized. And so, us as vendors haven't really adopted what's needed to really make things go. And so as a result, manufacturers, most of them just haven't adopted it yet. So to review, this is kind of where a lot of manufacturers are at. We have a blog post out there called the 8 Wastes of Lean Sales and Marketing, and then we're going to talk about how to fix it. So these are familiar if you have had any lean training. These are the 8 wastes of lean, but they're applied to sales and marketing. And sales and marketing has the same wastes. They're just different in format. So, an example of that is in one of the wastes is defects. Anytime you create an incorrect proposal and invoice because you don't have the right information, it's a defect. If you miss a meeting, if you forget to call back a lead, you delay your sales process, that's a defect. Overproduction, we see this a lot where salespeople end up needing to call customers multiple times to get information. And sometimes that's because your design process may be complicated, so you need to guide your salesperson through the process. I certainly need a reminder checklist when I have a complex process I need to follow. So, using tools to optimize that makes sense. Waiting is something that we see a lot of. Waiting for a customer to call you back, waiting for somebody internally, not following up with the lead right away at a trade show because you're busy. Anytime that a customer has to wait, there's waste there. You're delaying your sales process. You're decreasing your customer satisfaction. And then the last one is non-utilized talent. Anytime a salesperson or a marketing person is not interacting or focusing on interacting with customers, we call that non-selling activities. If they're updating spreadsheets, logging their calls, tracking their activity, that's all non-selling activity. And the more of that you can remove, the more efficient your sales process is. Burning through the rest of the list here, transportation. If you aren't doing, trade show marketing, you're driving there, you're going to the trade show, there may be, dollars left on the table there. Editing proposals manually, inventory, making salespeople, salespeople have to dig to find what's available or when it'll be ready, when a product will be ready, when a product will ship, and they can't get the information themselves. They have to call somebody to get it. There's waste there. Motion. One of the examples is every time you're at a trade show, you got to capture business cards. You have to keystroke it all in. There's some waste there. And then extra processing. This is one that's super annoying that seems like it should have been solved a long time ago, is having to enter data into multiple systems. It's such a time suck and it's such a frustrating thing that your salespeople end up feeling like data entry people or your administrative people or your inside sales or marketing people. They're having to enter it in, exporting data out of one tool and putting it into another, manually rekeying it in. So I actually have a video about this that I thought was crazy, because this video was made in the 80s. And it's an actual job, but I feel like sometimes salespeople feel this way. So I'm going to play the video.
Our world is overflowing with numbers and information. Now that most businesses and institutions store that data in computers, we need an army of people to put the information into the system and get it out again. That's the job of data entry and information processing workers. They often learn their skills in high school or through career school courses. Once hired, employers also provide training on particular systems. In addition to operating data entry devices, duties also might include double-checking data and preparing materials for printing. It's work that requires precision. You also have to be able to tolerate long hours of sitting and repetition of the same or similar tasks. You need to be able to pace yourself to avoid eye strain, carpal tunnel syndrome, and other repetitive strain injuries. But the work environment is usually clean and well lit. And if you prove your reliability and accuracy, data entry and information processing jobs could plug you into a career path that moves upward to increased responsibility and pay.
All right, so that's ridiculous. The fact that salespeople and marketing people today still end up doing that is a bummer, frankly. And we see it a lot. In my points in my career, I've had to do a lot of it. The good news is that there's a lot of tools out there that can eliminate the need to enter data and can free people up to focus on the customer. So one example, this is just a quick one here, is capturing business cards to start the conversation. In the past, salespeople had to manually write down the information from a business card or from a badge at a trade show, or even from an email signature. They had to manually input that data. Well, there's apps out there. The one that we recommend costs a couple bucks, and it turns the data on a business card into information, plugs it into your sales system, and then sends the customer either a text message or an email thanking them for visiting your booth automatically and right there. So 5 minutes after they leave your booth, they get a thank you for visiting text message or email. It just shows a lot of responsiveness. You can also begin the sales conversation automatically as well, and all of your follow-up can be templated. So again, this is just non-value added time that salespeople or marketing people oftentimes spend effort on that really chews through their day. And if we can eliminate it and help them to focus on what they do best, that's a win. Another example of cutting waste is the unnecessary internal calls and distractions. So the example here is a salesperson might be out in the field and they have a customer who calls them and asks them, hey, I haven't received an invoice, or my order is late. Requiring the salesperson to call back into or somebody in order processing to find out what the status of that order is, that's all avoidable now. You can give salespeople a window into your ordering activity from their phone, so that they can answer that question while they're on the line with the customer. The salesperson could even give them tracking information about where the order currently sits in transit, and it provides higher customer satisfaction. The salesperson spends less time digging, and it doesn't distract your internal people from answering questions. Another example of this is email archiving. We'll hear about this in a few minutes, but making sure that email is automatically archived so that you can see it when you're somebody else is corresponding with a customer. You don't have to email that person and ask them what they talked about. It's all logged automatically. Another example of this is seeing last time you called a customer. This is just a screen from Flywheel where you can see your customer list, their current purchasing level, health. But the key thing I wanted to point out is you can see it when they last contacted using automated call logging. So you don't have to wonder when the last time you talked to a customer is. You can see it right when you look at a customer information log. And that's a key thing. One of the last things I wanted to mention is waiting because you're on the road. Instead of having to wait to get information, you can get all that access to your customer data, and you can focus really heavily on responsiveness. All right, now that we have a few examples of eliminating some waste, we're going to talk a little bit about the RMS roller grinder story. This is a South Dakota-based manufacturer. They're one of the leading providers of grain grinding and processing equipment. They serve grain elevators, breweries, other folks like that who need to grind up grain at very precise sizes. and they are growing at a double-digit pace, and they needed to get more efficient so they could keep growing, and their salespeople could be empowered to help them to grow. And so we were engaged with them to try to find out, is there some waste we could eliminate? Is there some efficiency we could gain? So what we did is we ran through a process. The first thing we did is we did a sales efficiency assessment, and we just looked at a high level at their sales process to find out if there's anything that could be done to improve it. We found there was definitely opportunities where waste could be eliminated. So we conducted a more detailed process review where we stepped through each stage of their sales process. We identified how much non-selling time or non-value added time sales and marketing and order processing folks were spending, and at each step in the process. And we looked at processes that were particularly laborious, that took a lot of time and were wasteful. And then what we did is we automated and streamlined that low-hanging fruit, and then we repeated it, and we're still repeating it. They do follow the lean process of continuous improvement, and so we've already knocked 6 figures out of their cost structure, and we think there's quite a bit more to go get. So I have a video of a conversation I had with Blake, who's the VP of Sales at RMS.
With the company for 5 years. I started as a process engineer, really working on the production side. And as a position came open, I worked my way into sales, and then sales came into managing and leading it. And so right now, what I do for the team is I lead and manage the overall sales team and really the customer experience. And there's been just consistent growth year over year as we've continued to really sharpen our focus, define our processes, grow our customer base, and really try to focus on building a great team and hopefully positively impacting their lives. The biggest challenge that we faced was, it was about 1.5 years ago, we were trying to increase sales. And so we had a process, which was a very manual process, moving work orders through on a paper we had was not scalable. Because it was really manual and required a lot of like tribal knowledge. If this happens, then this has to happen. How do we get rid of some of the administrative side? How do we get rid of some of that tribal knowledge that you just acquire after years of being here or having to make mistakes, and make it more automated, simplified, and hopefully more accurate? Hiring an administrative person to just do paperwork is non-value add, but looking at it like, can you get it out there without having to have someone dedicated to that service? And so that was kind of the first reason why we looked at it, like, how do we make it so our salespeople can sell more yet have less administrative time and not have to add that administrative person yet. One of the things that the team has told me the biggest benefit is just linking our emails directly to Flywheel. As we email and correspond with clients and stuff like that, it's almost creating a history log or a thread. And they've said like how much just that little change, how much time it really saved them. It just automatically did it. And it happens in the background and you don't even realize it and notice it. Like just little things like that were really what pointed it out for them. And so what we have seen is we've seen the ability to have more pay time. And on an average, we're averaging about 30 minutes to an hour more a day for team members right now. Lean can and absolutely should be applied to all aspects of business. How good are we at communicating what's going to happen, how it's going to happen? Is the process relatable and understandable? Do we have the right parts and everything like that? So by automating that and making it more present for our team to be able to pull it up and stuff like that, we should yield higher NPS scores. Automation and information readiness is key to that. The alternative that we looked at that we actually considered was implementing an ERP system, which is hundreds of thousands, if not, millions of dollars to implement it, because that's the same idea of being able to do workflows within an ERP system. And as we looked at what that would take to do, the cost of it, and knowing that it was going to, our process is an ever evolving thing, made it really unattractive. So that was where we can come in with something that's more customizable. And that was something that was really appealing to me, from a price point, customizable, and fit. We could fit to our business model. The relationship that you guys working with us, the response and stuff like that, that's definitely a 10. Your guys' customer service side is a 10. Your guys' willingness and ability to kind of customize it to fit our business model is what's made it really attractive.
So RMS is a great example of a customer that we appreciate working with. We have worked with them on a number of projects. They're a great team. They have a great culture, and it's been great to work with them. So I wanted to just mention a few things that we worked on with them that helped RMS, and this was a collaborative effort. One of the things I want to just point out here is that it wasn't like we came in and solved their problems for them and we're the heroes. They were absolutely every bit as involved in the process, committed to the process, and implemented the changes that we were able to collaborate on. So the first thing that we were able to achieve is we eliminated a lot of time that was really underutilizing people. As I mentioned earlier, people who are in sales and marketing positions really should be focused on customer relationships, not on administrative tasks and not on pushing information around. So we really focus on cutting that down. And we were able to do that with some of the items that Blake mentioned. Extra processing, their systems were not connected at all when we arrived. So they had a website which emailed leads. The leads didn't automatically get entered into their sales system. The sales system was not connected to their email. It was also not connected with their accounting ERP system. And so we were able to connect all of those systems together so that a customer could flow from their first interaction with the customer all the way back through to placing multiple orders and the ongoing cultivation of that relationship. So we were able to cut their data reentry time, virtually all of it. And then the last thing we're able to do is automate the transition points in their process that were important. So, a few of them to mention is capturing new leads. Their particular product is very customizable, so it was important they could capture the information necessary to quote and invoice new machines. And so we were able to improve the notification of that process, the follow-up of that process. And then also the back end of the process with invoicing, and I didn't mention this here, but we also are doing work now with them with customer satisfaction scoring and automating all those things. But again, this is all things they're already doing. We were just focused on helping them to do them more consistently, more efficiently, and ultimately more effectively. So it was really a fun project to work on. But again, it was very much a collaborative effort. They wanted to eliminate waste. They wanted to grow. They wanted to sustain that double-digit growth in upcoming years, and they knew that just throwing more people at a manual process was just going to make that process harder to monitor, harder to control, and ultimately harder to scale. So how do you get started on this process? So the first thing is that you don't bite this all off at once. We recommend that you start with just a simple sales efficiency assessment. We have an online tool. I will be emailing out a link to this tool after the webinar. And it's a 50-minute online assessment. It's just a series of questions that help us understand your process a little bit. And then we'll score you based on what we see out in the market, both the industry average and the top performers. And those are specifically the ones that are achieving the double-digit growth that I mentioned earlier. These are our companies who have decided they want to grow, have decided to get more efficient and lean in sales and marketing, and that's what the top performer is. And then what we do is we identify recommendations based on your feedback on things that you could do that are what we call low-hanging fruit. These are things that likely won't take a significant amount of cost or time to change in your process, but could have a big impact. That business card scanner is actually an example of that. There are a number of those business card scanners that you can get, and takes 5 minutes and a couple bucks, and it will save you a lot of time. And so we try to identify that. Some of those recommendations, obviously, Flywheel can implement. Some of those recommendations may be process recommendations or focus recommendations. It's a 16-page report, so it does go into quite a bit of depth. This example here is just a couple of pages of it. We provide this because at no cost, because ultimately we want to help the industry take advantage of some of these new tools that help them compete more efficiently, even if that's not purchasing our product. However, if you do want to purchase our product, it is a good starting point to identify if the expense of our product is worth the efficiency gains that you'll get in the long run, and will help us to identify how we can serve you better. And it's a great starting point for us to start the conversation about our product. So my rule with doing webinars is always brief is better, and I always try to keep these under a half an hour. I know that you all have quite a few things that you are busy with. I'll be following up after the webinar with some additional information on the supporting documentation at our blog post. I'll send you a link to our sales efficiency assessment. And then we'll also keep in touch from time to time on what's happening in the market with sales and marketing software. I'm going to open up the conference bridge just for a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions they want to ask directly, you can also type them into chat if you're in a place where you'd like to stay muted. And otherwise, I'll be following up with the rest of you later. I really appreciate the time that you took today to join our webinar. Thank you so much. And I'll unmute those of you who are left so you can ask any questions that you'd like.